And we're back. If you haven't seen part one, stay right here. Don't go to part one. Here's why. Part one was mostly for the user who submitted this model that we did some work on to try to and improve. It was brutal. Part one was bitter, bitter medicine. What we did is we spent over an hour just making these folders, finding things, making tiny changes, and like I said, it was brutal. But now, and we barely had any fun during that entire ordeal. But now that we have all of this organized, we can actually do some things that I consider fun, and maybe hopefully you will consider fun and rewarding. So stick around. And after this video, if you do agree that this is fun and you're interested in how it was made, well, then you can go back to watch the prior video to see how we got to this point, and maybe go look at some of the other tutorials and check out the FreeCAD forum to find out more about this system. So what we did is we created all these folders and we organized things so that we could easily see the layouts that we need to create before we can make silk objects. And then we have a set of folders that show us the basic surfaces that we designed, how we cut them into pieces, how we restore some of these pieces, how we have tools to create blends in between the various surfaces and the blend surfaces. And so now you can see here, this is the final set of surfaces, but then before it was like this. So it's still kind of hard to go around and see and compare one thing to another, right? Because it took me a couple of seconds here to go from the original surfaces to hiding everything to showing the new surfaces. So you might not realize what change I'm trying to show, and you might think that you don't see the difference. So here's one thing. Let's make one more folder, because you see these restored surface segments and these blended surface segments. These have a natural grouping for what we could call the final surface set. Let's spell it correctly, because then we'll be able to find it easier. This is the final surface set. So let's put that in the Silk Design folder. And let's drop in the restored surfaces, because they're created before the blended surfaces. And then let's put in the blended surfaces. And this time, I'm pretty sure we are done reorganizing. Oh, almost. I need to get this in here. Then I need to put it. Oh, this is really tough. Will it let me put it one above the other? I don't know. What if I put it back in? Yes, that reordered it. Fantastic. Okay, so now we want to address the issue that even though we've organized everything and we know how to find it if we were there while these folders were being made, it's still really tough to go find things and to see the impact of changes, because you have to turn things off and then turn other things on. And that is what these view sets are for. In the last video, I showed an example in another file with another model of what view sets do. And let's just go ahead and make some view sets. So let's go to our primary design and look at these control polygons. These were made from the layouts. And it's really important to be able to see these control polygons to make sure, one, that they're not broken, because sometimes FreeCAD will misinterpret the sketches, or the sketches will become disconnected because you edited them in a way you didn't really intend to. It's really useful to have a view where you just see these objects, so you can make sure that they're still in basic, decent shape. So here's how we do that. We select them all. We hit link right here, make link, just the default option. And then we create a folder. And then see how all these objects are still highlighted? Let's go to properties. Let's make this a little bit bigger now. We need to work in here. Then we look at placement, position. So what we're doing is we're going to change the position of these links. And right here, okay, let's see. I like this view right here, this angle, because it lets me see the entire surface. Now, from the user's perspective, I know we're upside down, but this is how I want to see it. So I want my copies to go over here. So that's in the plus Y direction. Let's see, let's try 100. Okay, 100 is pretty good, but I'm actually going to leave room here for something else. So I'm going to jump right to 200. And the reason I'm not doing this one first is because it's harder to do, and I want to start by doing some easy stuff to show you guys. So see right here, boom, I grab all these links, I put them into a group, and I'm going to call this view polys. I'm not going to type in control. At this point, I know what polys are. We've been working with them for a while. So I'm just going to call it view polys and put that in view sets. And now I can turn on and off view sets, and it'll show me the polys. So now I can turn off the real ones in this portion here, and I can show, for example, my control grids. And say I was working on the control grids, that's what I would want to show here in the work area. And at any time, I can just turn back on the view sets and check that my polys are still in good shape. Let's turn off these control grids. The next thing I want to do is actually my cubic curves. So I show them, I shift select them all, make link, make folder. While they're still selected, actually, even if they're not selected, I'm going to turn on my view sets, because when I'm positioning these things, I want to see my other view sets. So here I'm going to say Y, same thing, 200, but I'm going to put them up in the air, which happens to be negative Z in this orientation. So minus 100. Okay. That's what I want. So now once again, I can turn off the curves in the work area, and I still see a copy over here. So right now I'm going to take these, put them in this folder, view curves. I could call it, I could call these primary polys, primary curves. At this point, I'm familiar enough with the model that I'll be able to figure out what it is. Besides, they typically end up in here in the same order, so it's fine. Okay, now that I have the curves, let's do the control grids. There's only 3. Control them here. Link, folder. This time, I'm going to go to 300 in the Y, and I'm not going to go up in the air. And you'll see why later. Just for now, I just have them in distinct positions behind the work area. And what do I consider to be behind? It's like, well, I choose where I'm going to be looking at this from the most, which to me is this position right here. That's where I'm going to be looking at it from the most. And so I want my view sets to be behind that. Okay, so this is in the correct position. They're still selected. I grab them, I put them in the group. So right here, view grids. Grab that folder, put it in view set, and you see now, boom, very quickly I can turn on and off all these versions, and I can see them separately. Let's turn the grids off in the control area, and let's say that this is all that you had modeled so far. Let's say you hadn't done anything else here. What would be the point of having these? The point of having these is now I can turn my layouts back on. Remember, the layouts are all created before these guys. But I have my layouts. Now if I go edit my layouts, I'll see the changes immediately. I can edit this node sketch right here. The changes will ripple to the polys, to the curves, to the grid. But I don't have to show these objects here. So here I have a clear view of all my nodes, all my datums, all my references with respect to each other. I don't have to show stuff on top of them, and I still see everything I want just by zooming in and out. Actually, to see the full power and get the first serious dose of fun, let us also create copies of the final surfaces. I was kind of jumping the gun when I said let's stop here. Let's not stop here. Let's make the surfaces. So here, I just made the copies. I create a folder. I take the copies I'm going to move into Y, and I'm going to put them behind the grids. So surface things flow in this direction. To make surfaces, I need a grid, and for that I need a polygon. So it flows polygon, grid, surface. And then here, over here in this vertical dimension, we're going to do curve things. So I need polygons, then curves. Okay. But for now, let's say this is what I have. So I grab these surfaces, put them, no. Escape. I'm not trying to go in edit mode on anything, so I'm going to say cancel to transform. I'm going to grab this, put it in the group, put the group in view sets. I forgot to rename it. This is view surfaces. You know, here in parentheses, I'm going to write primary. So, and this is kind of a separator. Everything above is primary, everything below will not be primary. So here we go. Show everything, hide everything. Okay. Now I can hide the original surfaces in the workspace, and now I'm going to do exactly what I said. I'm going to edit these sketches in a very unencumbered view. And if you're the person who created these sketches, this view will make sense to you. You won't necessarily be able to predict the impact of making changes, but you'll understand this setup because this part here is entirely up to you. You do it in a way that makes sense for you. This, what I'm suggesting here, is a way to quickly see what's going on. So let's say right here, this guy, well, this is this guy, this little guy right here. I'm going to select it. I'm going to edit it. Okay, it rotated me in a weird view. I want to go back to the baseline view I said I liked, which is this right here. Okay, so this angle right here is the view that I like to see everything all at once. Let's do a quick change. I'm going to grab this tip and I'm going to edit it. Boom, everything updated. This single change in the sketch modified this leg of the control polygon and this leg of the control polygon. This ended up changing just this grid. You see how this grid went absolutely bonkers with this change? But it still created an object. It still created something that's a finite size object. So let's undo that real quick. So that was a crazy change. The point was to show you that everything updates in a relatively short order, even though we have these surfaces as a high quality setting. Okay, so this is my default view, but what if I want to work precisely? Then let's switch to this view. This is what I want. See, because I have the view sets behind, they're not on top of my sketches. So I see my sketches perfectly fine and I see the objects right behind. If I zoom out a little bit and rescale myself, I can see the curves. And so here, when I edit this thing, I can see what's happening to the curves. I'm going to Control Z that, Control Z that. Here's what I'm going to do. I want to start editing this node fairly precisely. So I'm going to use the constraint lock to automatically create vertical and horizontal dimensions. Why did it not pick it? Okay, now it did. And let's see. Okay, and now here, this way I can make small controlled changes that with numbers that I know and that I can easily undo. So here, this was 37.78. Let's just make this 38, because that way this is a baseline. Right here, this is 170.4. Let's make that 170. By making these numbers a little bit more normal, it's easier to do small changes and put them back. This was 38. Okay, now what if I want to make it 50? Okay, do I like 50? Do I not like 50? I don't like 50. I want to go back. It's easy to type in 38. Okay, so this is a way you can work pretty precisely. You know, for now, let's hide the grids. Let's hide the surfaces. So now we see something more interesting. We see all our sketches, and immediately underneath, we see our polygons, and right above, we see our curves. This is how I like to work. I find this a good way to see what I'm doing without having a cluttered workspace. This is the workspace. These are the view sets. I can show and hide the view sets anytime I want, even in the middle of working on the sketch. And this is how I like to work. So let's This was a quick little bit of fun. Let's expand on this because we have done a lot more work than that. Let's keep going in here. Let's not worry about the layouts for now. Let's keep working in the silk design. And so we've dealt with everything that was in the primary design. Let's deal with the segmentation. In the segmentation, we have these points. Let's go for it. Shift select, grab them all. Make link, folder. And right here, let's move them right away. And we're going to put them at 200. And we're going to put them at minus 200 in the air. We're going to put them above the curves. You'll see why in just a moment. Maybe we could have put them on top of these curves to show what they're cutting, but we're going to get a result that's just as good in just one moment. So we've put these where I want to put them. Let's grab them, put them in a folder. One thing you'll notice is that there's a million elements in here, but because we have everything nicely organized in folders, it is very quick to create these view folders. And sure, we could have a specialized object, but honestly, folders work just as good. A specialized object wouldn't really be doing much more than these folders are doing. So here I'm going to collapse this so that it's easier to drag and drop. Drop this in here. Check that I've got everything where I want it. Cool. Go back in here, hide my points. Turn on my view sets. These control polygons right here, they're very necessary because first of all, they're a necessary step, and there's reasons to have them as a distinct step, but we don't really need to see them. We just want to see the results we just want to see the curves that result from these polygons. So since we have the curves, I'm not going to make a view set of these control polygons. I'm only going to make a view set of these curves. See right here, shift select, take them all, links, folder, and while they're selected, let's go ahead and move them. And 200, oh, no, I'm in the wrong spot. Let's do this in order. I always like to move 200 first in the Y to get the alignment, and now here for the height, I'm going to put them at minus 200, which matches exactly with the point, and that's where I want them. I want them right with the cut points. So now if I look in the vertical direction, in these view sets, what am I seeing? I'm seeing the control polygons, then I'm seeing the curves, and now I'm seeing at the same time the points that cut the curves and the resulting cut curves. This is a nice combination right here. This tells me how I'm segmenting these surfaces. So let's go ahead and hide the originals in the workspace. Let's go ahead and collapse some of this stuff. We don't need all of this to be on, but see right here, segment grids to restore. Do we want to look at that? Maybe. Segment grids to blend. Kind of. Oh, you know, why not? Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and make view sets for these. And actually, we're going to make a view set for all of these together, because these are the pieces we cut out of this. So same thing. Let's make a set of links, make a folder. Let's move them. This is going to be, see now, to create these guys, you need these curves and you need this surface. So where are we going to position this? We're going to position this at, I keep clicking on the Z instead of the Y. We're going to position this at least as far as the surface and at least as high as these cut curves. See, now we're moving in both directions in our view set. Organization-wise, now we're dealing with an object that depends on the basic surfaces and the basic curves in the segmentation. I'm making this up as I go, you know, like this is totally made up. You can do whatever you want. But this is fun, and this just makes sense for me. Let's see. Let's turn on the layouts in the work zone. And here we're doing surface stuff. We're doing pure primary surface stuff. Here we're doing pure primary curve stuff. And now we're merging the two concepts. So this makes sense to me. But if you want to put them all in a line right here, if you want to put them all in a vertical line up here, If you want to put them in the plane, you do it however you want. The idea is that you should be able to recognize where your stuff is, what it is, so that as you make changes in the base data, you're able to see the impact of these changes quickly. So let's see, I'm already 2 folders behind. So this right here was, in terms of sorting, this right here was my view cutting curves. And I will take the time to capitalize things. Why not? I've capitalized everything so far. Let's just keep doing it. And this guy right here, what is this? These are my surface, typos, surface segment grids, right? All of these are simply pieces of the original surface cut up. And let's see, what are we going to do next? Well, let's just follow these things in order. Which we just, oh no, we just did both of these as a single thing. Oh, hold on, let's turn off all this stuff. We don't need this. We don't need that, see? Now I can turn on and off whatever I want in the workspace to look at what I'm actually interested in right now, to what the focus is, and I still see everything else. We've done this, we've done that. We can close the segmentation. Now let's look at blended grids. Sure, that is a fine thing to see by itself. Let's take all of these, go like this, make a folder. Where are we going to put them? Right here, there's no rhyme or reason. We could keep going up, or we could go over sideways, or we could go diagonal. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go in this direction. So these guys are going to be at a y of 500, not 5,000, 500. And this is going to be minus 2 up is minus 200. Right here. I could choose to show the end pieces that we're reusing, but I'm not going to. All of these objects are the same type of object. This is a different kind of object. So let's just leave it by itself. And then here, so this is view blended grids. See, I think I don't need to repeat the grids to restore, even though when I was in the segmentation, it was important to spell it out. When I'm doing a view set, I don't need to, because when I see these segment grids, I see them all together, I understand that they're all segment grids, and if right next to that I view the blended grids and I see that it doesn't include this piece here and it doesn't include this piece here, that kind of automatically tells me that I didn't blend these pieces. So at this point, I don't need to see these little pieces repeated. I can just go straight to the final surface set. So now I'm going to take all of these, boom, right here. Oh, let's go ahead and move these right away. And so now we're going to be at, let's do the y, we're going to be at 600 and minus 200. So you see what I'm saying? I've decided to, after going in this direction for the surfaces and this direction for the curve, I rejoin them at this point. I arbitrarily decide that, you know what, from now I'm going to work and I'm going to grow in this direction. It doesn't really matter. It's just whether you find stuff easy to see and whether you have access to your work zone and see the relevant stuff you want. Put it wherever you want. So let's take all of these, put them in the folder, and what is this? This is view final surface set. And we put it right in here. And right now, let's go back. No, we don't need to go back right now. Let's just keep working. Remember, we have this CAD folder where we put stuff after we're no longer working with Silk, and we want to move into FreeCAD, and we want to have a solid object so we can go to the part design workbench and we can cut it, we can join it, we can do all the other cool stuff that FreeCAD does. Well, we haven't done that so far. So the way we do that is you would take all your surfaces. Now you would do this when you have either enough surfaces to make a solid or enough surfaces that if you mirror them all, you will create an actual solid. Right now, we don't really have enough surfaces to do that, but let's just pretend we do. So then I go to the curves workbench. You can also use the part workbench, but curves workbench is my favorite way to do this stuff. And that's how you know you're leaving silk. If you have all the surfaces you want, and you go to the part workbench to make a mirror, well, you've left silk. So put the result in the CAD folder. If you go to the curves workbench, take the result and put it in the CAD folder. Cool. So now I have this object right here. I'm going to create a link of it. Now we don't need a folder because it's a single object. So we can just take this link, immediately move it to, I think we're up to 700. Yep, and then minus 200. So here, this is where you would have your solid, right? If you were doing, the reason they usually use an entire CAD folder is that first you mirror this several times, or you create capping surface with the part workbench in order to have enough pieces to make a solid. Then you make the solid, and then you export that to the part design workbench. So here, I'm going to go ahead and hide this. This just goes straight in here. I don't need to rename it. It's a single thing. It's fine as it is. And now that we have that, I want to do a couple of things. First, I want to start assigning standard colors to these things, because normally I keep the restored surfaces at this color, and then I color code things by taking these guys and changing the color to this one right here. So I believe this is the standard color cyan. What I do, this is a light cyan. So it's a cyan, which is full green, full blue, low red, and it just raises the red so it's more pale. I usually call this light blue, but it's not light blue. It's cyan. It's a lighter version of cyan. But that's what I like to do. So this way I can see where my blends are. And so right here, by doing that, you can already tell something that was hard to tell before. You can tell that the lump in this thing is entirely within the blend. There's nothing, you cannot see this edge right here? You literally cannot see it. And I'm going to show that right now by going to this object that we created, the solid, making that high quality. So it's high quality at the origin, but I think I still need to go to this one and make it high quality as well, which is, oh no, it carried over. So now if I take this one, and let's go ahead and, no, let's go back to the original and change its style from flat lines to shaded. See, now we can see right here what I was talking about. You can see the lump on the surface in the metal, just like you can see here, but you literally cannot see this join right here. I dare you, it's literally impossible. It's a full G2 join. You need analysis tools to see this transition, like literally. So this is starting to be a nice set of views to look at things. I can hide it very quickly, so I don't have anything in the way of my layouts. If I hide it and then I go into this view and I say, oh, I want to see this or that behind here, but I don't want to see the polys, I don't want to see the curves, I don't want to see the grids, I just want to see the final surface behind here. You can do that. I find that it's very useful to have the curves just above. You could choose to have the curves down below and then the grids above. You could even have them all in a single file behind here. That way, whenever you're working in this view, you can show exactly the one you want right behind it. Like, for example, you could choose to show polys right here, but you could also choose to have the curves down here. Anyway, the ability to very quickly turn on and off exactly what I want to see in reference without cluttering my workspace and the ability to, now let's have some real fun. Grab this guy, the ability to go into a sketch in my layout view. Now, in an ideal world, when you choose your sketch planes at the same orientation that you actually want to edit them, you don't have to do this rotating the view around. So that's kind of slowing me down right now, but it's okay. Now that I'm in here, and this is the sketch that I want, in order to show you what I'm talking about, I'm going to do a couple of things here. First, see, I believe that this point right here, see, it's not letting me pick it because there's a constraint to this point. Oh boy. Is there? Oh, now we're getting into some rendering artifacts. Let me pick this point. Yeah, that's the center of the circle. That's good. Let me pick this point. I'm going to assign it a vertical dimension. No. See, because we're looking at this thing in the wrong orientation. It's not vertical dimension that I want. It's actually horizontal dimension. Okay. When I lock the horizontal distance, whatever value it is, I'm not trying to edit it. That makes it so now I believe that I can safely drag this point around without the risk of accidentally moving the other. And let's see what that does. I'm going to grab this. There's too many datum planes getting in my way. I'm going to hide all that stuff. Or at least hide enough of them that I'm able to, oh, they get bigger. You know, here's what I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to put 2 dimensions on this fin constraint lock. Come on this point. Got it. Now I'm going to move this guy out here. Move this guy way up above. What that does is now I'm able to edit them. And like normally you don't need to zoom all this. I'm doing this just to show you guys what's going on and why I like these views. You see this guy right here, that's the distance, that's the how much this sketch juts out to the right. Take this guy, it was at -15, I'm going to go -200. It's going to take a moment. And everything updates. I can see the impact on my polygons, I can see the impact on my grids, the impact on my curves, I can see the impact on my primary surfaces. I can see exactly where it falls in my blending operation. And then right behind it, I have a view of all uniform color. That way, if I was worried that these different colors here were hiding a defect, I can immediately go inspect the final surface. And obviously this change was very dramatic, so let's just undo that. Put it back, get out of the sketch. And let's make this actually even better to look at. It's in a CAD folder, display shaded, all this stuff. Here's what I want to do. I want to go to Appearance. I'm going to make it, you know, I think shiny plastic is really nice. Shiny plastic gives you these really high reflections that really let you see. See, now one thing, when you have this many objects in your scene, it becomes harder for FreeCAD to choose a sensible point to rotate around. It's kind of a shame, because if you put your mouse over the object, then it will rotate perfectly, right? It'll orbit the view with respect to the object. But what sucks is now it highlights the object, so you can't really see what you want it to see. So you kind of have to play around, or here's the thing. Instead of highlighting this object, I'm going to highlight this one to move around. And that way I won't have the highlight on this one. See, so the shiny plastic is good, but the black is not the best thing necessarily. So you can edit it here, or you can edit it back from here. I usually do everything here, but you know, I should learn more about this appearance menu because it does a lot of cool stuff. So it gave me this, and here's my color, here's my point color. This is the appearance. What about the object color? This is weird. What? I don't know how to do this. Which one of these actually controls the shape color? I don't think this is going to do what I want. You know what? Screw it. I know I can do this just simply by going in here. See, shape appearance. I'm going to go right in here, pick one of my favorite colors. This pink is pretty nice. I also like this. It's like this guy here. This usually, see, when I say it's pretty nice is, I don't know, for me, with the way my eyes and my brain works, this allows me to perceive a lot of details in the edges of the highlight. Kind of the same thing with these blues. They're just pale enough that they don't fight I can see what's going on the edges, and I can see a lot of what's going on in the highlight. It kind of spreads out the highlight, whereas when it was black, the image felt black and white to me, whereas now I can perceive a lot of detail in these edges. So, yep, I like this pink. I also like, oh, that's right, I don't need to go back in here to change it. No, I just change it under the basic data tab, which I usually prefer. I like this guy. I like this dark orange here, and I like this lighter orange. This is also very nice. You see how this guy really brings out some shaded areas in here, like it literally looks like a shadow. So this is a very useful color. You have a rich highlight where you can see whether the edges of the highlight are good or not, whether it feathers in cleanly or whether it's messy, but you still see a shadow aspect. See, on this guy, you don't see any shadow. I don't get any shadow impressions from this. So this is fine, but this gives you something different. And that's another advantage of having these view sets, is you can create as many copies of this one and just give them different colors, because different colors are going to show you different things. And that some things will be common to a lot of people, and some things might be particular to you about these colors. So anyway, in case you haven't noticed, I am having fun. I don't know if you would be having fun doing this, but I'm definitely having fun, and I think it's useful regardless of the effort level. And you know, it took a long time to set this up, but honestly, I got to tell you, sometimes I just play with these little note sketches for like an hour straight, because I just kind of get into a hypnosis. I'm like, I want to edit this sketch, and I just want to see what happens. It's like I get to a point where I don't even care about what I was trying to design anymore. I'm just like, I just want to play with these sketches and watch the effects ripple. So you know what, I gotta say, I'm really not a fan of datum planes, and and you're seeing why right now, because like they just get in the way. I want to select my stuff. Thank you very much. I don't want all this stuff in the way. So here, I'm gonna get myself in a view where I can see what's going on, and I'm just gonna play with this guy. See, real quick, I can see the impact on the polygon, and then it spreads to the surface and it spreads to the curve. Then I'm like, jump into the matrix multiplication view of the segmented grid, watch the rest ripple. All right, and then sometimes the fun part is just going crazy. Doing just insane stuff that doesn't make much sense for the design, but it's kind of a stress test. You see, like, okay, so the basic surfaces have changed up to this point, which is a very dramatic change. And what I'm curious about now is, how well does the blend handle it? So now that these surfaces are dramatically different to start from, this blend doesn't look that bad. But you can see we still have problem that we were seeing in the last episode, where we're seeing a little lump in here. That's these two surfaces here love blending into each other. You see how like this entire surface here just, okay, let me close this right here so we can select. This here just looks fine. We can't see any issues, but this surface just keeps having a lump. So we can play around with that and see what is it about these two areas right here that they work so well together, and what is it about these two areas that they insist on fighting each other. So let's play with this guy, for example. Oh, and it keeps turning back on the datum planes. Oh God. Just get in the datum planes are fine. I just don't like them personally. And they get in the way of grabbing what I want. Is it this one? Yep, I'm gonna hide that. Thank you very much. So here, I'm gonna grab this. So hard to grab this point. Oh no, I can't because that's when I added the thing. Oh, well, I have these dimensions. So now this, okay, this was minus 15. Let's go minus 50 just for fun. See what it does. Okay, we're just torturing my poor user's model. He was lovingly building his ship, and I'm just distorting everything to see what happens to the blends. Because I'm having fun torturing the model. Yeah, see, it's weird. Like, what makes this? So it's tricky using this stuff. You know, I got to be honest. Like, this is the perfect example. You see how these two grids still just love each other? They're like, we don't care. Like, see this guy and this guy? They're like, we don't care what you do. We're gonna blend perfectly with zero visible flaw in this entire area. These two surfaces love each other, and these two surfaces just don't like each other very much. I mean, the blend is blending. You know, I mean, like, when you consider that this is what we're starting from right here, there's no denying that this is vastly improved. It's just not, it just doesn't feel very nice. Let's go back to this guy. Go back in here. Sometimes FreeCAD, you know, I'm going to start doing a bunch of undo, redo right now, so FreeCAD might very well crash on me. But at this point, I've shown you most of what I wanted to show, and I'm just playing around. So if FreeCAD crashes, I don't think it's a big deal. If this was important work, I should have been saving all along, whatever. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to share the file at this stage, so I'm going to Control Save. And yep, so let's go in here, back in this sketch. No, back in this sketch, because that was the last one we worked in. That was the last one we worked in. I'm very curious. If I undo, it should just undo this dimension. What is it actually going to do? Control Z. Nice. It did the right thing. That's a nice freak out. I wonder, do I dare do it twice in a row? Will it actually undo the crazy dimension in this sketch? Let's do it. Let's find out. Control Z. What did it do? We'll close. What? I don't know what it undid. Maybe I had multiple changes. I'm going to undo again. Is it working on it? Is it trying to do something? I don't know. Undo. We may have lost the rest of the undo stack. That's okay. Let's go back in this guy. Let's put it back in a reasonable spot. Let's see. Well, what's a reasonable spot? How do you decide what's reasonable and what's not reasonable? Well, you put yourself in a view that makes sense. Oh, look. It actually did my undo. You see how this is back to being small? Okay. Oh, the undo worked. It just, for a second, either I didn't notice the update or the update was delayed for some reason, but this is fantastic. It did what I wanted. But let's tune this guy. Let's go in here. What does tuning mean? Well, it means just trying to make a nice polygon. and trying to make all these polygons work well with each other. Okay, so you see, there's two sets of nodes right here that are jumping down below, which create these two polys here, which create these two curves. And I think it's easy to say that these three curves right here are not very harmonized to each other. If we, let's say that this one right here and this one are fairly harmonized, then it's this one that isn't. So what I want to edit is the one in the middle, which is this one right here. So that's what we're going to do. First of all, since that's not the one I'm in the middle of editing right now, I'm in the wrong sketch, I'm just going to close. Then I'm going to select the sketch I want, edit. It's very unfortunate that I have to change these views all the time, because if these sketches happen to match the default plane that you like to work in, then the workflow is much, much smoother. But right now, this is the sketch I want to edit because I want to harmonize this polygon, and therefore this curve and this grid, to these two polygons. And if I do it in this view like this, it's not very meaningful. But if I do it in a view that's aligned right here, it is quite meaningful. So that's what I'm going to do. In order to to see what I'm working on, I'm going to make this, I'm going to push this task panel to maximize. And then I'm going to put myself, I want to see what's going on with these two while I work on this sketch. And to clarify, if I was showing these polygons and these curves on top of all the sketches right here, it would be a royal mess. It would be very hard to work on this sketch. I find it is much better, much more useful to see this sketch in relationship to the other layout sketches, and it's fine to see the effects on the side. So here's what I'm going to do. I don't want to mess with its original position, you know, along this edge right here, so I'm only going to be adjusting the tip. First thing is that these two cross each other, so the easy thing to say is that, hey, the tip of this node right here should be down below this one. So let's go right here, and from -13 blah blah blah, we're going to go to -15. Let's do small changes. -15. Okay. Okay, that barely got me to the tip. Let's keep going down. Let's go -17. Okay, so this is almost parallel to this guy, but a little bit below. That's good. It could be a little bit more swung out towards this one. Let's look at let's look at the polygons. When I look at the polygons, these two are very close. They start very close to each other, so they should not have the angle between these two should not vary very much. I don't think the angle between these two should be half of the angle to this one. I think this would be too much. Like having this tip right here would be too much. But by the time you get over here, they are fairly separated. So here's what I want to do. I want this blue thing to be back on the left and a little bit lower. Let's do that. So first, let's put it back on the left side, an arbitrary amount. Right now I'm at -15. I'm going to go to -13. Let's do one change at a time. Okay, so I went back to the left, an arbitrary amount. And then I go here. Hey, this is nice. I like this. I like how these 2 points, I like how this area steadily grows from this side to this one. And now I look at these two curves. Hey, this is nice. I like this. I like how these two curves grow apart. And this looks like a pretty smooth transition from here to here. But even though this is a pretty smooth transition from here to here, it's nice to look at all these points. Do these points flow well? Well, these points are all in a line. These points are all in a line. The overall shape of these polygons is nice. These points here actually very nicely flow in a line. If you consider a swoop from here to here, it's good. And it's also good even if you consider a swoop from here all the way back to here. Actually, this is a very nice line to look at. We should probably take this point and drag it up to right here. You see how this would make the polygon's legs really flow. And this would show up here as a much more harmonized grid in here. So maybe we'll come back to this, but right now let's work this one. What should we be thinking about when we look at these points? Probably this line. Probably this right here. So this is kind of telling me actually that I should bring this point back a little bit this way, probably back a little bit this way and down. So let's do that. Remember we were at -15, I went all the way to -13. Let's go back a little bit, -14. But before we even worry about what it looks like, let's also go to this one and let's go down a little bit more, -18. Okay, now let's look at what the impact is here. Okay, so these three are not aligned, but if you consider the flow of these lines, the flow of all these points into each other, that's pretty good. And why am I including this one? It's because if you go over and if you look at it from the side, these three edges are kind of like ribs. See, this is the gunwale, this is the keel, these are ribs. But this piece here is both part of the keel and part of the ribs. I think it has a special name in boat building, but I'm not a boat builder. So I call the entire middle line the keel, and I call the entire side the gunwale, and I call everything else a rib. It's just easier for me. But this guy here, this piece here can be considered to be analogous to these guys as well, just rotated. So it makes sense to consider the flow of these points just as much as to consider the flow of these points. See right here and right here. And then when we look at the grid, it's nice to make these guys kind of at least nominally flow together, and these guys at least nominally flow together. Okay. But let's go back into the basic view. Now I look at these look okay in this perspective, these curves look okay. I'm just going to call it good enough for now. And then I go back and I look at the surfaces. Surfaces are still fine. This got a little bit lumpy though. This got a little bit lumpy. Does it show up in the blend though? Let's go look at the blend. Did this blend get any lumpier? Not really. I mean, this blend right here still, maybe it got just a hair lumpy. Maybe it just got, see, maybe there's a tiny little bit of a dip in this area. What could we do about that? What could we do? There's a dip somewhere in here. What could we do about that? Let's go look at this guy. Not sure. There's a lot we could do. I'm kind of going overboard and editing this thing because I'm having fun. But you can see that once you've done all the setup, you can spend a long time playing with these sketches. That's actually the entire point. The entire point of Silk is not to spend forever building these folders and all this junk. Oh, by the way, this was just the view sets. I'm actually talking about building these folders. I'm talking about building all this. The point is not to build all this. The point is to have it. And when you have it, you can go back to what you actually care about. What do you care about? You care about your view sets. I mean, you care about your layouts, because this is where you're actually designing. This is where you're actually designing. All of this, the Silk design, is just stuff you need. What you want, if you do Silk, is you want to have these objects easy to see, easy to understand what the relationship between them, easy to see how changes cascade one way, the other, and then in combination. And you want to be able to spend your time editing your sketches and your layouts, which are organized completely the way you like. And then Silk actually works as a proper parametric system to show you the build history and to update everything accordingly. Now, as I've mentioned to the user, I will say one thing. You notice that I was kind of like having a hard time trying to harmonize these surfaces. It's because in my personal opinion, you should not have this many sections close to each other. to do a keel, honestly, this many sections, I can model the entire half of a boat with this many sections. So to have this many sections close to each other, you can put them, and Silk will blend them, but it will be a little bit lumpy because you have too many things close to each other. These are technically blended, but they're not blended in a satisfying manner. The easiest way to blend things in a satisfying manner with Silk is to have your sections as far apart as possible and to use as few sections as possible. See, like right here, these curves are trying to be part of the same curve. And this is not a complicated curve. If you want a single curve right here, then just draw a single curve. We could probably make a very satisfying version of this just with 3 curves, from here to here, from here to here, and from here to here. As a matter of fact, maybe that's what I will show in the next tutorial. But for now, I hope that you had any bit of fun watching. Probably not as much fun as I did, because if you can't tell, I'm kind of into this. But I hope you had a little bit of fun. And if you actually watched the previous video, I hope that you can understand the motivation behind it and why I wanted to take the time for this user who had spent a considerable amount of time creating all this stuff and help them to organize it in a way that I think makes sense to me. And even though it takes a long time, although, I mean, it's faster if you do it right off the bat, but it still takes a long time. But then I want to point out that that was not fun, and it was not supposed to be the fun part. That was the hard part. Having this and playing with the sketches and tweaking things, that's the fun part. Oh, actually, let me show you something more. One more piece of fun. Stay with me. Let's have one more piece of fun. You see how all we did so far was manipulating these sketches, would manipulate the primary surface? We have other things we can manipulate that are also fun. We can manipulate the segmentation itself. So let me show you that, because that is absolutely fun in my book. I'm going to hide the layouts. I'm going to go to the segment. I'm going to go to the segment, the primary design. I'm going to show the cubic curves. In the workspace, I'm going to show the cubic curves. In the workspace, I'm going to show the points on these curves. I'm going to find this cutting point right here. See, I was lucky. As long as I'm not in the middle of a complex operation, FreeCAD actually lets you pick these objects quite easily, right? You say, it just picked it. It's only when you're trying to do something complicated that it doesn't let you. But otherwise, even if I wasn't able to pick it, what I would do then is I would select it and I would move with the arrow keys down the tree, and I would find it that way. So now it's been selected. I go to the property view, I go to data. You see how right now it's at the value 0.6, which probably means that the direction is from this point to this point. So this is 0, this is 1, and then so this is half, and this is 0.5, and this is 0.6. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move this thing back and forth, and that is going to change the cut point, and that is going to change where the blend starts and stops. So first change, I'm going to say the blend gobbles up almost the entire surface. So I'm going to make that 0.1. And I hit enter, I click out of it, it still doesn't update it automatically. This is a case where you have to hit F5 to make it update. Let's see. FreeCAD is having a hard time right now because you see it has in fact updated right here. But it decided not to update on this one. I'm going to ask it to please recompute. And now I'm going to hit F5. See, it's not broken. Let's see, segment, this is annoying. This should affect, for example, both the segment grids. See, these are not updating. Oh. I know what's going on. I know what's going on. If you saw the last video, you remember that I mentioned you don't actually need to propagate these things unless you're segmenting multiple surfaces. So in this case, I use this grid point up here, but the user had actually cut it within this one, and these two are not synchronized. So that just taught me a couple of things. The user considers this area to be the primary driver and this point to be the driving point. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that, well, let's see, let's find this point. Let's find this point in the tree. That's something that's annoying with the view sets. I like to have them above, but then when you click things in here, it finds it in the view set first, which is a little bit annoying. One way to deal with that is to put the view sets below the main tree. I don't have a perfect solution right now. I'm still fighting with it, honestly. But let's just go here. See this point. It's this point right here. So this point is first in the tree. The user is using these segments to control the segmentation. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to link this point up here to the value on this point below. So here is this object. I'm going to F2, I'm going to copy its name. Then I'm going to come into this one. And for the value right here, I'm going to say that the value of this cut is equal to this object, which I copied the name, dot u. Because it's the value from this point right here, I want to copy the value u in a manner that it's linked. So even though I typed, this is something weird, but even though I typed u up here, don't hit return. You have to click it down here. You see how it changed the way this is spelled out? This is the way that works. Hit OK. And now this value here is linked to the value of this guy. Hit OK. You see how it's ready to update now? I'm going to hit F5. F5 does the update, and you see now this carried over. So now I'm going to test out this without worrying about the changes up here. I'm going to test this out. This is 0.4. I'm going to change it to 0.1, and I'm going to hit F5. Do you see how these two moved, but they moved in reverse? That's because this curve here, the polygon was drawn going left to right, and then this one was created going right to left. All of these objects have a reverse property to deal with accidental reversals of direction. So we could go back and we could change we could reverse the poly, we could reverse the curve, you know, but depending on which one you reverse, see, if you reverse right here, the changes are going to propagate this way, and it could cause a problem in an area which is working fine right now. And if I change the poly, then it could change all these curves, which could change a bunch of stuff. I'm just going to reverse the point. So it's this point right here. It's going to get its value from this guy, but then I'm going to say reverse true. And you see now I don't have to edit the equation here. I don't have to reverse the curve. I don't have to reverse the poly. I just reverse the point. And now it is matched to this guy. So I go back to this guy. If hopefully, yes, FreeCAD allows me to select it. And now when I edit it, these two will move together. Okay, so you remember how I said it was going to be the fun part? I apologize, I was wrong. This right here was not the fun part. This was part of the painful medicine, which is organizing your model so that you're able to do the controls you want. I'm going to put this back to 0.4, which is where the user had it. And now it's the fun part. Let's remember, it's top 56.02, so we can find it quickly. So this is what the user had. And actually, you know what? Now we don't even, because we know where this is, we don't even need to look at it. Let's just put ourselves right here so we can see the fun stuff. And I'm going to go, instead of 0.4, I'm going to make it 0.9. Hit 0.9, hit F5. See, the blend surface has almost entirely absorbed the original surface. Now I'm going to make it, no. Now I'm going to make it 0.1, type in 0.1, hit return just to be safe, click out of it, now hit F5. Now I'm almost not blending anything. And let's look at these changes with the surface, see what this does, so we can see the portion that's restored and the portion that's blended changing, and what kind of impact it has on the lump. So if we go 0.9, which means we're going to almost completely cut away the surface. Oh, hey, this got a lot better. If we almost completely absorb the surface, the lump gets really spread out. All right, so we can edit our sketches for a long time. We can play with our sketches. Where is it? Primary design, layouts. We can play with our sketches until the sketches are just as good as they're going to get, right? So if your basic polygons and your basic grids and your basic curves look as good as you can make them, and you're still not getting the result you want out of the blends, now is the time to go back and tweak these guys. But when you tweak these guys, you got to remember that some of them are linked. You cannot specify this cutting point and this cutting point independently. When you cut it in silk, you choose the cutting point on one side, and it just cuts right across. It cuts right across in the direction of the cloth. It doesn't cut diagonals. It always follows the grain. So right here, let's just play around with that some more. Remember how it was this point right here? Let's go right here. Now let's look at it from this side. Let's look at it from this side, and we say, okay, we started at 0.4, we tried 0.1, we tried 0.9, let's try 0.25, click, F5, okay, let's go 0.75, enter, click outside, F5. Well, let's see how much we really need to do. Let's see, if I hit 0.5, and I don't hit enter, and I hit F5, oh, it does it. So you can just type and hit enter. You don't have to click and hit enter or click outside of it. I was just being a little bit paranoid, but you can literally type in, let's see, what happens if we do just the tiny blend? We're only gonna blend away 0.05. If we only blend away 0.05, the lump is very noticeable, right? I mean, because we are blending, this is technically blended, and technically, you don't see the edge of the blend. You still see only the middle of the blend. But it's a tiny blend. But it is a different. You see, the lump that you see here is not the same thing as the lump right here. This lump right here has a sharp edge to it. So this is technically blended. Silk does not do miracles. Silk cannot fix if you chose inappropriate surfaces right here. It will blend what you give it, but it will always keep the character of what you gave it, which is both a strength and a weakness. It's a weakness when you wish it would smooth things out for you, but it's a strength when you actually had really good basic surfaces, because it will preserve their character through a blend. What do I mean by that? Let me show you with some examples. Let's see, if I look in my data files, my test files, some of my models I make for fun and for test cases. If we look at my boat, let me show you a couple of images. Here's some renders. Let's go look towards the end, because towards the end, I had created a set of explanation images of the whole process. So here's all your sketches, all your layouts, your polygons, your curves, your grids, your curves with your cut points, your basic surfaces, the pieces of the original surfaces that we keep, then the first level of blending, which jumps between these primary pieces, and then the secondary level of blending, which jumps between the blended sections, and then all the way to a solid. See here, my sections on this boat are very small, are very far apart. So I have a very clear shape for what the cross section, for what the rib looks like right here. And I have a very clear shape for what the transom looks like. I'm using all these words wrong, by the way. Did I mention that I'm not a boat guy? I just call this the gunwales. I call all of this the keel. I call all of these ribs. This is the prow. This is the transom. I'm just showing you my ignorance with these terms. So, see, I have these clearly separated sections, and they each impart a very large amount of character to the shape. This guy right here says, hey, towards the front, we're very sleek. And then this guy says here, oh, towards the back, we're actually wide. We're very wide in the hips because this is the cargo area of the boat. And then it says, at the back, this is an old-timey pirate ship that I didn't even bother to look at a picture. I'm just going from memory. So this back section is probably completely wrong, but that's what I wanted, and I got it. So you see, these sections are very separated, and each has a lot of character to it. So then when I make the blends between them, I get what I consider to be a nice result. See, like this, my primary surfaces have a lot of character. My primary surfaces are not trying to create a smooth surface right off the bat. They are as distinct as they can be, and they still produce the type of result that I'm after. So now we're looking at it upside down, and here you can kind of see what I'm saying. These faces of my boat are very distinct from each other. But then you look at the flow when it's finally all blended together, and it's what I wanted. I'm not saying this is a good boat. I'm not saying this is a good aesthetic design necessarily, but it's basically what I wanted. And if I want to make a better boat, I'm going to have to make better sketches and better primary curves. The blending process is doing exactly what I told it to do. So that was the fun part. So an important thing is if you went through all looking at the first video and when I'm working on debugging this user's model and setting it up and all this stuff, and you went through all this video and you still don't see what it's all for, you still don't see why it's worth it or why it's fun, then Silk is not good enough yet for you, and I apologize, and I'll try to make it better. But I'm having fun. I'm having fun in this part. No one's having fun in the previous part, let's be honest. But I am having fun in this part, and it does do a lot. It does do what I want. And I'm still working on improving it. So I hope you have fun as well.